European stocks rose for a third day after Mario Draghi said he expects interest rates to stay low for an extended period. I have Clemente De Lucia from BNP Paribas in Paris on the line. Clemente, European equities had a great year last year. In terms of the markets, what are your views on the evolution of the markets and what sort of trends are you expecting to see?
Probably what we can expect regarding the markets, financial markets throughout the year is clearly the trend would be probably some improvements because we can see that the fundamentals in the Eurozone are improving. When I say fundamentals, I'm speaking regarding the conditions in peripheral countries. They have been taken measures regarding structural reforms. They have been consolidating their public finances. And also the governance of the Eurozone have been improving. All these conditions, therefore, should favor some improvement in financial markets. Nevertheless, we cannot rule out some volatility going forward because there should be still some open issue still pending, like there should be the end of the program for Greece and from Portugal. There should be the European elections. There will be the European elections, I said. And so all these elements can add some volatility to the market, but I would say that the trend will be a positive trend. And also I was forgetting the asset quality review from the European Central Bank regarding the commercial banks. And also these elements, even though in the long term can create some positive elements because after the asset quality review, the balance sheet of banks will be strengthened, but when you have to take actions, in that period, some volatility can renew.
And focusing on Draghi's comments today, Clemente, what stood out to you the most and did anything surprise you at all?
The statements more or less was in line with the December statements, so there was nothing new. There was probably from the President Draghi some strengthening regarding its forward guidance and some emphasis regarding the fact that the monetary policy will remain accommodative as long as needed. How can interpret these statements? Probably from the growth and inflation outlook, we had the impression that the ECB didn't change its assessments regarding inflation and outlook. Probably the ECB is still concerned regarding the weakness of the recovery, and so he wanted to emphasize to the markets that the ECB is ready to act if the downside risk to growth could materialize.
And Clemente, we had a deflation scare this week as inflation fell below target. Draghi said inflation was distorted by German data and that he expects to see the rate remain low before moving back towards its target. What do you think about Draghi's comments about inflation? How do you see inflation moving?
In December, according to the data that we have, German was reporting a significantly decline in inflation. But notice that Germany probably is the only country that has some price pressures because the activity there is not just recovery, probably is expanding, and therefore wages can increase because productivity is high. So Germany is the only country that can have some price pressures. The fact that we see a significant decline in inflation, it means that there are some distortions, and this is exactly what the statistical office in Germany said. But this is it is a kind of one-off measures, so you cannot have any longer these distortions next month. So a recovery in the German inflation is likely.
The euro fell to a one-month low after Draghi's statement. What direction do you see the euro heading next week, and what are you expecting to see in terms of Eurozone data?
Next week, there will be the publication of industrial production figures. Industrial production has been relatively weak in September and October, so they started the quarter on a very weak foot, and this can affect negatively the average for the quarter. The data that we already have regarding November, and particularly we have the data from Germany, they're relatively positive. So some positive figures for industrial productions are likely in November, and this could help probably provide some other new elements regarding that the recovery continued throughout the last quarter of last year.
Clemente, as always, a real pleasure. Well, viewers, do stay tuned as we have plenty more coming your way.